The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello to everyone, and welcome again to the monthly update on Dynamics 365 by Weekend and SAPS. There are a few small changes that I'll tell you about as we go along. As you can see from the start page, we're now covering Dynamics 365, not just Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations. What we're finding is as people as Microsoft's promoting the 365 brand, we're getting questioned about all the applications in 365. So we're going to start bringing in more stuff. But let me then go ahead. This is our disclaimer. The objectives and the agenda. Most of you have seen this before. The really important point I want to make is we appreciate if you do the survey. You will get, you can download a copy of this presentation in the hands-out section of the GoToWebinar. It's there, just click on it and get it. And we'd really appreciate it if you do the survey because it helps us adapt, which is what we've been doing, and finding the right format and the right content for you guys. The agenda, this is normally what we do. So Rican will tell us a little about themselves and I will for SABS. We've divided it and changed it a little bit in that now we're putting all the Dynamics 365 in one block. This is just organizational because it was all jumbled together before. And then we have VS and VSTS, which are not really Dynamics 365 tools, and Power BI, they're independent tools, even though we use it normally in the context of Dynamics 365. But since they're actually independent tools, we're making them as separate sections. Finally, we do some QA and wrap up, see if anyone has any questions. And now I'll hand over to Michael, who'll tell you a little bit about Recan. Michael, just tell me when to flip the slides for you, okay? When you need it.
Hi everyone. Firstly, welcome to May's D365 Unified Operations webinar. Just to quickly introduce myself, I'm Michael Hughes. I may have actually met with some of you, or at least spoken with some of you over the phone. For those of you that I've not spoken to before, I help with both the delivery and the resources within the Microsoft Dynamics team here at Recan. For those of you joining us for the first time, and before Louis begins providing you with the updates from Microsoft this month, I'd like to just give you a very quick overview of Recan, our services, and how we could potentially help you and your companies. We now offer 2 offices in the UK, both in Manchester, and we have global coverage here within the Microsoft Dynamics market. We provide both consultancy and permanent resources to aid both implementations and support of Microsoft Dynamics suite of technologies. As a business, we challenge the norm and we try to add value. We help host and deliver a complimentary training workshop with exams in order to address the skills gap within the Dynamics market and to develop a deeper understanding of the market we recruit within ourselves. We believe this provides a distinct advantage over some of our competitors. Recan is AppSco approved consultancy, which is seen as a badge of quality within the industry, and to achieve this status, both our clients and candidates are fully reference checked. For a full overview of the services we provide, just please follow the link on the screen there. Louis, if you wouldn't mind sending me to the next slide. Right, so just a quick update for the news this month. We're busy at the moment planning our next complimentary D365 workshop in partnership with XABS, which is going to be held in London and Manchester in September. If you'd be interested in attending the workshop, please get in touch with either myself or Louis for further information. As always, you'll find information about live jobs on our website. However, please do get in touch if you want to discuss future pipeline work. Recan is hosting a dashboard in a day workshop in London on the 26th of June. So by all means, again, if that's of interest to you and you feel like learning more about Power BI, do not hesitate to get in touch. For any information regarding market news, whether that's salary, rate surveys, or information about what's in demand in the market, again, don't hesitate, pick up the phone or drop us an email. We're more than happy to talk to you and help you where we can. So hope you all enjoy the webinar, and I'm going to hand you now back to Luis, who's going to pick up and carry on.
Okay, thank you very much, Michael. This is something short about SABS. I'm the presenter today, and there's some information about us. I think the most important thing is We've done more than 40 training workshops on Dynamics 365, specifically finance and operations all around the world for Microsoft. So Microsoft is one of our clients. We train their staff and we train the partners. We have already been part of, helped with 12 implementations. We train trainers at Microsoft, and we were a bunch of MVPs, MCTs, and our MCPs, and we made in Switzerland. So we're based in Zurich, Switzerland. These are some of the other people on the team. Some of them you might recognize because they're quite active in different blogs and on LinkedIn. Just so you can put some faces on names and know who's behind us. In news, this month, most of the news we have concerns our training. We've been redesigning our training. We're making our workshops shorter and more specific. Normally our workshops were 4 days, and it's a challenge for a lot of people to take 4 days off to come to the workshops. And we've also found that by the end of the second day, most people are dying with information overload. So we're breaking it up to make it easier and also, to both attend and digest. We've already developed one on role-based security. That's a 2-day workshop. So if you're interested in role-based security, we have something there for you. And we also have one for lifecycle services. That's just lifecycle services. Normally we have lifecycle services part of a training workshop that covered all the tooling, and it's called implementation workshop, which was one of these that was overloading people with information. So now we've done lifecycle services, and we're going to take each tool by itself, and then people can mix and match. And there's more stuff coming. If you want to see what we're up to in more details, go to our website, and in the workshops and training section, you'll see what we have in the works there. Some of our clients, we've been getting quite a bit of traction. As you can see, some mainly British, Scandinavian, German, and Swiss clients at the moment. Tips and tricks. We always start with this, which is to make sure that we start with something exciting, and we have some interesting stuff. Last month, we started looking at the security reports, and since we've been doing this training for role-based security, and a lot of people seem to not be aware of these reports, which are actually quite useful if you're having to deal with security. The one we have this month is the security role access. The security role access gives you a report that is actually, you can see there are some plus and minuses on the report itself in the image that's in there that allows you to expand and contract it. And you can see for each role what it controls. Basically, as you can see in this one, an anonymous applicant, which is an external user type that does not even need a license. They have access to several menu items. You can see what they are there, and then there's other stuff. And this is an easy way if you want to figure out the different roles exactly what they cannot do to check it out. Important points here is this involves a lot of data, so it can take quite a bit of time. If you haven't changed, if you have not made any changes to your security and you just need to pull out a report, make sure you skip the rebuild collection, because that's what really takes a lot of time, and that way you will get your report quite quickly. Alternatively, if you're only interested in specific roles or a specific role, you can use the filtering, and they are limiting the records to include. So that's keeps it shorter and easier for you. So that was that. But now I have one that's very interesting, which is using the table browser. Especially people who worked with previous versions, they were used to be able to seeing and working with the data directly in the table browser, as opposed to having to work with it in the forms. And this disappeared in 365, but now it's back. And I recently saw a posting on how to do this using Google Chrome, which is the complicated way. So I decided to give you this tip on the easy way to do it. And the easy way is pretty straightforward. You enter the URL and specify the menu item, so the URL of the instance of Dynamics 365 that you want to see get data through the table browser in. So the menu item, the table, and an example is, so if your instance was running on MyOS cloud.axdynamics.com, you see in bold there what you'd actually have to put in there to see the table, the cust table in the table browser. That's it. Works on all supported browsers. Pretty straightforward. Now I'll take you to the one I actually saw posted on LinkedIn, which is table browser the hard way. This works, and some people I guess would like it better, but this only works in Google Chrome. So it consists of basically setting up Google Chrome or your environment or instance as a search engine. And I'm going to quickly go through this, but if you pick up the handout, you'll be able to follow all the instructions by yourself later. And what you do is in there you go to settings in Google Chrome, and in the settings you get to manage the search engines section in there. Click on it, add a new one to it. Then in the search engine, this is the what does the magic. The search engine, give it a name so you recognize it. What I've done here is more generic. Normally you should use the name of your instance so you know what this is really, which instance this is working with, because it's instance specific. So if you have a whole lot of VMs, you'll have to have one of these for each one of them, basically. The keyword is what you will type in the URL bar when you want to use this as a search engine. And that's the reason why I put a SABS D365FO table browser. So if I type that, it will find this and use this as my search engine in the URL in Google Chrome. And then the URL, you got to place a URL, basically copy the URL from to your environment or to your instance. And at the end, instead of doing it like I showed you an easy way, so the end of the URL, the MI is sys table browser and table name equals %s. That's the %s is a variable that will be replaced when you use it. Save the whole thing, and in your browser URL, type the keyword you specified for the search engine. Mine was SABS, etc. SABS D365FO. If you type that, then you type the name of the table, which replaces the variable that we just saw before that you put in the search engine, and then click enter, and it'll take you there. Sorry about that. And you've got it working. So this is a bit more complex than just knowing how to manually craft the URL, but then you don't have to remember. You do, however, have to have one for each environment that you want to use the table browser on. So up to you how you want to do that. Any questions? If you guys have questions, I'll try to stop as we go along so you can ask. I'll try to answer. Please keep it short. I'll keep my answers short too. I don't see anything, so let's go on. So LCS updates. So as has been custom lately, there have been 2 updates in May. So there were 2 releases. And the highlights are there have been performance and reliability improvements to the emails from LCS. So the emails from LCS were not always being sent or arriving, or it was a little weird. It seems to have become more reliable. And the environment update tiles. So these used to take a little bit to load and give you the information. The experience now is a little better. I don't think it's a major thing, but it's there, so now you know. The one that is nice is if you have cloud-hosted environments, and everybody I know does, is that there's now the possibility up there in the top in the search field to, you have 4 choices where you can say you want to filter by the environment name, the topology type, the deploy by the deployment status. If you do that, so it'll search only within that category for you. And that's nice because before you have to it was basically free for all, which is, we'll see in the next one, something interesting also happened there. But that's made it easier, especially if you have a lot of cloud-hosted environments, VMs in your own subscription. Another one was that came out in May, another update to LCS, is only Azure Active Directory users can create prospective pre-sales projects in LCS. Now, for the vast majority of you, this is not horribly relevant, but it is mostly for ISVs and VARs who want to create pre-sales projects to do demos for their clients. New users who sign into LCS using Microsoft account that is not associated with customer source or partner source support plan and don't have a subscription, active subscription, are now not able to access LCS. So you must be in an organization, so you must be associated, that's the important part, either with customer source or partner source, or have a subscription in order to be able to access LCS. Without that, you will not. So if you invite somebody who is not one of these, they will not be able to. There was, so the second update during May, and performance reliability improvements again to the cloud hosted environments page. This used to take a horribly long time to load, especially if you had a bunch of environments. I'm not sure I can tell the difference, but supposedly it loads a little faster now. And the load times for the update tiles and issue search features. So the update tiles are those blue metro style tiles in the environments, and they're a little faster again. I'm not sure it's really obvious, but it's been improved. I think the most interesting one is when searching for features and for issues. That used to be very cumbersome, and that has improved quite a bit. So it's much faster. You get your results much faster if you're looking for a fix. So that one is quite nice improvement. Deleting, this is another update that was. I haven't actually seen it work. It doesn't seem to work for me, but it's been announced. But if you delete an organization, now it's a soft delete. And the result of it will be color-coded, so to show that the delete was a soft delete, so showing that the organization was still there. And this is from the main dashboard of LCS. Now, if you read the help that you can actually see here, it actually tells you that that's not possible. And if you look at this, I selected a user there, and there is nothing in the UI to allow you to actually delete anything. So I'm not quite sure what this is. I'll leave it to you guys to investigate. The important thing is at some point it's probably going to kick in. I don't know why it hasn't kicked in. The user details are saved in LCS to ensure that there's an audit trail. So even if you delete an organizational user, the audit trail will not disappear, which is important because you want to keep the history. Platform updates is the next one. Do we have any questions at this point? Nope. I'll go ahead. So we're still on PU 15 for March. So in May, there was no platform update at all. You can see we're still on build number 7.0.4841. And I have not had any news or heard anything about when we'll see a new one. But I expect for people who are not on the CAAP program, if I remember correctly, that's what it's called, we'll only be seeing PU 17. So I think PU 16 is reserved for the CAAP participants. So no news there. Application updates, same. So we saw 8.0.30 from April. There hasn't been anything there. and so there's really no news on May on the application. However, there are a lot of binary and X++ updates that you may want to look into and apply. I've applied some, or I had some clients because they solved problems that we had. So if you now in between platform updates and application updates, the solution is if you have a problem, go check those out and see if there's a solution there for you and apply it. On-premise updates. So this, I had promised in the last webinar that from now on we'd be covering on-premise. On-premise is a little odd because the updates from Microsoft don't come as a separate platform update and application update. It's all put together. So keeping with that, I'm also keeping everything together here. And we're still on app 7.2 with PU12. So this was from March, but there hasn't been anything on it. But since I haven't talked about this before, I'll give you a quick overview. So the most important one, I think for me, was the improvements to setup and deployment. I've not actually done an on-prem 7.2 on the previous version, and it was very heavy, very time-taking. So I'd actually like to do an internal deployment just to verify. I hope the improvements are good. It sounds good, at least, and if that they're making an effort, because it was a very painful process. So I hope this will improve it. You can see more on the URL that you have over there. And again, you don't need to take a picture or anything, just download the presentation PDF from the handouts. There are improvements to servicing. This is actually quite nice too. And that is that before you had to apply all updates manually, and now you can apply platform and application updates directly from LCS instead of having to do it manually. You can also apply your own code customization, so not just Microsoft ones. So basically, you can manage all your code assets in LCS and apply them from there to your on-premise environments. And this already existed for the cloud for a while, but you can also roll back code changes, packages. So if applying a package fails, you have the possibility of rolling it back so that your environment is back to a clean state. Previously, this was not possible. If it failed, you were stuck. You had to figure out what went wrong, and if you wanted to roll back, it was almost impossible to figure out what you had to roll back manually to clean it up. So that's also quite a nice feature. And as a note here, I have that reconfiguring will remain available for environments that were deployed with previous versions. So that was the process of updating environments before. It was called a reconfiguration. So that's still there for older environments. So that here, this stuff works if you have 7.2, which comes with PU12. There are some important hot fixes available already for on-prem, and they are listed here. One enables administrators to disable experiences that depend on internet connectivity on client machines. So there are a couple of things that require that if you're using a client, that the client was connected to the internet, and people who are doing on-prem might have a closed system, and therefore that was creating issues. So you have the possibility to disable that so that you don't have those issues. And there is now also support for ISV licensing for on-premises. This has always been there in the cloud. With on-prem, it was not working, but now it's there. And you can, yes, if you go to the URL over there, the whole thing will be documented there. So that's on-prem also moving forward. Any questions at this point? Nope. Then before I do this, I have a poll. I'd like to hear what you guys think. I'd like to know how up to date do you feel on Dynamics 365? So that's what we're trying to do, keeping you up to date, and I'd like to hear if you are normally up to date or not. And I'll give people a minute or a little more to respond. And this one will be an interesting one because I'll tell you what our internal answers were so that you can compare, and I'll tell you what the result of the poll also was. I'll give you a little more so that people who haven't voted yet have a chance to vote. This is also a way of making sure that everybody's actually paying attention. Okay, I'll close the vote and tell you the results. So 13% of the participants feel they're fully updated. That's good. But it's what we can see is the majority of people are not completely updated all the time. It's natural. There are so many updates and they are so frequent that it's difficult. 63% are more or less updated. And that's excellent. Considering the amount of stuff that gets updated all the time, that's actually very good. And we have 25% struggling to keep updated. Now, internally, we are in the struggling to keep updated. So one of the reasons why we do this and we do this webinar is it's part of our discipline of making sure that we are updated, because now we have to update you, and that forces us to do it. And since we were forced to do it, we figured out, well, why don't we make this or provide this summary to our clients and to Weekend's clients too. But we were actually mostly towards the struggling part. So I can see a lot of people here doing a good job. Thank you very much. Let's get back now to VS and VSTS updates. So yesterday, so this was very recent, there have been actually performance problems with VSTS lately. There have also been performance problems with several other Azure services. Yesterday there were problems building using hosted agent pools. And Microsoft is looking into it right now. There were previously performance degradation in several regions, and those seem to be fixed. So hopefully things are improving when you're doing building and using VSTS. The one with the build on hosted agents, you will check it out. Go to the VSTS home and check out the updates to see how that's doing, because that's something that hit us yesterday. It might be connected to the other performance degradation problems that they've mitigated. Some more highlights. Now, this is important. VSTS is huge. It's used for all sorts of things. So keep in mind that we try to focus on the things that we find useful in the context of Dynamics 365, which is a little odd with what I have here, but there's a new version of the demo generator, which is also available, and to make it easy to demo on VSTS by providing some sample data and configuration. People find VSTS has a very steep learning curve. And reality is the easiest way to learn is to try and play with it. But everybody, when they get into VSTS, they have an account that they're using for real productive work. And that makes it, nobody wants to be fiddling around in it. There's no sandbox in it. But now if you want to, you can just go look for the VSTS demo generator. It'll give you an account that you can play with to your heart's content and try everything you like. It's also useful when you want to do something new. You don't have to try it on your live system. You could use the demo environment or account that you have to try and see how things work. On the build side, so this is a common service that's used in VSTS or Dynamics 365. They've actually added support or improved support for Ruby, Python, Java. and leveraging Xcode. Now you'd say, but this has nothing to do, nobody's doing this in Dynamics 365. The reason why I find it useful and I highlight it is actually I've seen several projects that are not just pure Dynamics 365 projects. So, for example, I'm working on one that we're using Java for integration. And it's nice that in your version control, you can also control the Java code or Python code or Ruby code that you have in there. And when you build a release of Dynamics, of your customizations for the application, that you can also build a release of the same version for your integrations, even though it's not an X++. Of course, this has never been an issue. Support has always been there for C#, and that tends to be what's mostly used, but I've been lately seeing quite a bit done in Java, and I suspect Python fans and Ruby fans will also appreciate that. But so that I think that was quite a nice improvement, especially because we didn't work in Java too. More highlights. Progressively exposing phase deployments using release gates is now generally available. This was not generally available, so this was only beta. It's been in beta until now. And the really nice thing about this is that you have the possibility to specify application health criteria that must be met before release is promoted based on external things and events. So previously you could control whether a release was good or not based on the state of internal things. And now this adds support that you could base it on external things. Like, for example, you could, when you do a release and before you do deploy it, you can have different types of gates, and we can check, for example, if some system is up or down or stuff like that, or different criteria that can be met from the outside. And this basically consists of connecting or collecting health signals from services from outside and using them as gates to to control whether the release is good or not. Typical stuff would be, for example, external approval systems. If you have some system where you need to approve it before it can go ahead, you could connect to it. Some scenarios for use cases, the gates are here. So incident and issue, seek approvals outside the STS. Quality, so if you have some quality metrics from tests, and if you're doing automated testing, you could base it on that. And security, scan on the artifacts you have involved, and all the way down to the infrastructure health, which is stuff running as it should. And so you can base your releases on that. If any of that external stuff fails, then then the release will fail. So that's added a lot of extra stuff to how you can manage releases. So that was nice. We use that extensively. There's also import and exporting inherited processes. This allows you to test changes in a test account. So making changes normally to your release definitions, if you made a mistake, you end up screwing up all your releases. And now with this, you can actually do it in a test account before doing it in your primary account, so you can make sure that everything is done properly and functioning as you expected before you put it into production, your primary account. So that's also nice because this stuff is getting more and more complex. So the likelihood of making a mistake is also increasing with it. And the visualization is improving. There was already some there, but now it's improved significantly, so you can see the release progress, so that you can visualize and see what's happening much better. This has been evolving, and it's nice that you can visually see this and then get detailed information on the different steps as you release software. And that was the STS and Visual Studio. Anyone have any questions? Nope, no questions. So let's jump into the updates on Power BI. Again, Power BI, like the STS, is not specifically a Dynamics 365 service. So we look at things that are most interesting for Dynamics 365 because it's huge and there's lots of other stuff in there. So one neat update there is the ability to use QR codes for reports on iOS, so on Apple environments. And you can connect an online graphic directly to a BI report with no navigation or search needed. And basically, you generate a QR code for a report, straightforward. You sign into Power BI service, you open the report you want to link, click the ellipsis from the action menu on the upper right-hand corner of the screen, select Generate QR, and you got your QR code. Now you're ready to display it where you want. Paste an email, for example, print it, pin it on paper in a specific location. Somebody comes along with their phone, scans it, it'll take them directly to the report. No, so for an end user, that's pretty cool. Yeah, so this is the last line here says to use the code, open the Power BI iPhone app, scan the code, you go automatically to the intended report. So I like that one. More highlights on Power BI. So there's been major improvements in the quality and stabilization for iOS, Android, and Windows users. The ones I found most interesting was the addition of multi-select option for report slicers. So you did not have multi-select before if you're slicing a report up. And so I think that's quite nice. I think quite a few people wanted that. And there's support for NTLM authentication. That's the Windows authentication technology for reporting services in SQL Server 2016 for Android. So this is specific to Android because NTLM is really Windows technology. So now you have the ability to use it also from Android to authenticate. A global search and the recent menu are also now available for Android, so another improvement to Android that was not in the app before. And SQL Server reporting services, there's been some improvements also, or improvements for iOS and Android. So if you're using iOS or Android, which is what all the cell phones are today, there's some nice new things there. And there's the ability to share notifications for Windows, which allows you, lets you know if a colleague shares a dashboard with you. So, and if somebody has a dashboard and they share it with you, you can be notified right away, basically, on your app. And that covers it. Any questions on that? So we're nicely ahead of schedule today. This is because there were no platform application updates, so that's nice. If nobody has any questions, I'd like to run another poll then. And the poll is, which of the following applications are you using or considering using? We had a similar one previously, but this was before Business Central came out. So now I'd like to know with Business Central included in there to have an idea how that's doing. And it's now open for you guys to vote. And the results are quite interesting. Okay, I think the people who are going to vote have voted, so I'll close it. But first, I'll give you a summary of what we're seeing. So the vast majority, 86%, are interested in finance and operations. Quite a few people, 60%, are interested in flow, logic apps, and power apps. There does not seem to be much of an interest in customer engagement. That's the CRM stuff, which is very interesting because in 2017, almost everywhere where we went, people asked us about CRM. And we are getting exactly the same general impression and feedback, and that is that nobody's asking us about CRM any longer. It seems to sort of have died off. And what I'm seeing from the people here, there was no one that's really looking into it. We're interested in figuring out why. It seems to sort of have died off. But quite a few people are interested in talent, which is also interesting, and Business Central. But our what we find really interesting, so this customer engagement, how the interest suddenly died. We don't know why. If we find out, we'll share it with you. But that's how it is right now. So since today was a little shorter, we reach the wrap up. Please again do the feedback, and I'd like to thank you everyone. Michael, would you like to say something before we close up for today?
First of all, I hope you've all found today's webinar rather useful. Also, if you're working on any projects or implementations and you either require any additional consultancy resource or training, then please don't hesitate to get in touch with either myself or Luis and his team over Exhibitors. As you can see, extremely knowledgeable and no doubt will be able to help you guys out. As a small favour, we would also be very grateful if you could like and share any posts of the webinar online, just in order for us to help share this information to obviously the wider Dynamics community. Obviously, some of you will be following us on LinkedIn and such like, so we'll post regularly, and if you wouldn't mind sharing those, we would be very much appreciated. So thank you from Recan for joining us today. Back to you, Louis.
Thank you very much, everybody. I guess that was it for June, and we'll see you guys again in July. I hope you find it interesting, and let's see if we get some platform and application updates for July, so we have a little more to tell you. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Luis.